Maybe Cuzzie can do that.
I've got no timing.
What we're gonna do a clean plate of you like just doing a click.
Yep.
Like no, so you can do that now. Just do it empty. And what we can do is we'll cut that. So when you click, it'll like obviously not there. And then when you click, it'll be.
Can be super janky.
Welcome everyone to another episode of A Beer with a Brewer, and today we are joined by our, you're not the venue manager anymore, are you, mate? You've stepped up in the world, the
Step somewhere.
Overseer of all things hospitality, Sam, or as we affectionately know him, Cuzzie Bro, our token Kiwi. How are you, mate? Yeah,
good man, it's good to be here.
Thanks for having you on.
Yeah.
I believe this is your debut on the show.
Yeah, I've done a pretty good job of avoiding it so far. But
well, I actually thought we'd snuck you on another time, but apparently this is it. Yeah. So welcome, mate. Good to have you on.
Yeah.
So we're here having a look at our New Zealand Pilsner. We've brewed it again after it did pretty well a couple of months ago in the AIBAs.
Did all right.
Did okay.
Number one or something.
So we thought we better make it again.
Yeah.
And of course have you on to have a chat about it. So why don't we crack it open, and then we might delve into a bit of your background, mate.
A little bit of a spiller.
That's a brewer's pour, good job. Cheers.
Don't work at the bars anymore. Cheers. Delicious.
Delish. So mate, you've been with us for 3-4 years now?
Yeah, it's getting on. I jumped on about a week before everything got shut down with the pandemic.
Yeah, good timing.
So well, it's not the most successful bar I ever run, shutting down a week after I took it over. So that was exciting. I also thought they were going to make me redundant straight away, and they could have. But Revel kicked me on and let me work with their bar teams and kitchen teams across both of the venues, and now here we are. It's
we just before we started filming this, mate, we saw out the window old Goldie drive by. I think you spent a bit of time delivering pizzas and beer on that when you first started.
Yeah, I was the bar manager / dishwasher / pizza delivery driver. So it's actually not a bad way to spend the pandemic, to be perfectly honest.
I think we all had to go delivering pizzas at one point. I think I did a Friday night and then realised that probably wasn't for me. But do you think that was actually 3 years ago? It was a bit crazy the way things have gone on in the world.
It's been a lot going on with like even our hospitality side. It went from about 5 people when I first started, and now we have just over 40, I think we're cracking for hospitality.
Hospo's now by far the biggest sort of workforce in the company.
It's absolutely huge, and we're going through quite a few challenging times as we want to grow even further. So it's a very exciting business and industry to be part of. So I'm bloody glad that I could have done it with Revel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very,
so since
very
you
cool
started,
business.
as you mentioned, we obviously had the little pandemic in the world.
It
looked all doom and gloom, but in terms of the hospo side, we opened another venue that's probably twice as big.
Easily.
Easily twice as big.
Yeah.
What's that? We've got about 8 times as many staff.
Oh,
probably more.
Neither of us are mathematicians, mathologists, I believe they're called.
Well, anyway, a lot more staff than the 5 we started with.
Many.
So during the pretty tough time of the pandemic, we've managed to grow, and it's been reasonably successful. So that's pretty good.
We've managed to hire some absolutely amazing staff. My role is more working with the kitchen and bar teams to just let them do what they do well. So it's a very nice role to have, and in my spare time I just get your yeast samples seized by customs.
Yeah, that's a bit of fun, isn't it? So pretty
it wasn't a funny joke last week.
No, it wasn't. So before you were working with Revel, I think you're managing a craft beer bar over at Ridges.
I worked in a lot of fairly dodgy cocktail bars, and then I went into hotels for a while. We had a pretty good craft selection, but I really wanted to come over to craft beer properly. So when the opportunity came to work at Revel in Bulimba, I jumped on it. I was absolutely stoked to have gotten the job, and I'm pretty bloody stoked to be here now too, X many years later.
Yeah, that's awesome. So before that, how long had you been in Australia since you moved over from New Zealand?
I've been here 10 years and a week, I think.
Oh, so we'd nearly class you as an Aussie by now.
Absolutely. I mean, Aussie as, bro.
You've still got a bit of that Kiwi accent and a bit of the lingo. That'll probably be with you forever. Just like Philip and Russell Crowe will claim you. A couple of Kiwi.
I think they're mildly more successful.
Yes.
So how'd you come up with the idea to brew this beer? What was the mythos or the inspo behind it?
The original version of this beer we put together for the birthday last year as one of the 4 collab beers we did.
Yep.
So for the 4th birthday, this one was a beer we made with Cuzzie Bro from Black Hops. So we did a pretty small batch, it was about 1,500 litres, and then released it for Christmas. And I remember drinking the beer over Christmas and I think into January and just thinking, this beer is pretty tasty.
Yeah.
Always sort of been striving to make a good lager, particularly a good lager that could go into beer awards and do well. And then when the ABAs rolled around, we're sort of looking at your plan, what you're going to put into the awards. We're like, oh, why don't we make this again? And I think whilst I thought it was pretty good, it sort of exceeded all our expectations.
It was crazy. It was one of the first awards out the gate, and you usually sit there for an hour and you do a lot of clapping and you see all these amazing breweries hop up. Then suddenly we're up, out the gates. It was
pretty exciting,
pretty magical, crazy feeling.
Which made it a pretty fun night.
Yeah,
I think we celebrated fittingly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've made it again to bring it back as a wider release. Obviously, it's been quite popular, but having only brewed 1,500 litres a couple of times, there's not that much volume out and about. So this time we've gone the whole hog and brewed a full 7,000 litre batch.
It's good, because this is fresh as, isn't it?
We packaged this on Monday. So it's now Thursday, so yeah, 3 or 4 days, that's pretty fresh. Doesn't get much better.
So what makes this unique compared to other like Pilsners in the market? What sort of do you reckon got that across the line to become a champion beer?
I think the actual New Zealand hops or Kiwi hops. It's based on, I guess, a German or European Pilsner. It actually uses Weimann malts, which is a German malting. So that sort of really clean Pilsner malt base, and then absolutely loaded it up with Kiwi hops. So the last one we actually brewed that went into the ARBA is, we later worked out that we'd taken some of the wort to grow up yeast. So it was about, I don't know, in that size, maybe 20% of the wort, and then we'd dry hopped it for the full volume. So that's probably why it tasted like an IPA for the first couple of weeks. But by the time it was judged, it was probably a month, 5 weeks old. So it had sort of mellowed out a little bit. So it was almost sort of in that perfect sweet spot for the beer. But the Kiwi hops just sort of work beautifully in this style of beer. They're sort of bred or based from Saaz hops, which is a traditional European hop, as one of the cultivars. And then bred with other sort of hops that bring out the sort of fruit character in the beer. So in this beer, there's 4 different Kiwi hops. There's Motueka, Waiti, not Rawaka, Nelson Sauvin, and the new one, Nectaron. You probably know those areas better than me. Traditional sort of Kiwi words and places around that sort of top Nelson area. But Waiti, Motueka in particular, as I was saying, were bred from Saaz, and they have that sort of nice spice in the background. And then they had like a nice sort of almost citrusy, lemony type zest. Nelson Sauvin is a bit of a unique one. It's got sort of like almost white wine characteristics, like Sauvignon Blanc.
High up acid, delicious.
Yeah, and also if you use enough of it, it has like this sort of diesel-y sulphur that comes through. So I really like using it in pale ales and IPAs.
I think one of my favourite beers ever. Have you ever had the Liberty Sauvignon Blanc?
Yes, not for a long time, but I do remember that.
I asked one of the guys behind the bar at Beervana that I went to the other day, and asked if that was coming back, and they weren't interested in talking to me. So.
No.
Oh well, I can dream. It'll come back one day.
Yes, Beervana. How was that?
It was absolutely incredible. What I absolutely hated to see, though, I've got to tell you the truth, it had the leaderboard of the top, I think about 15 or 20 beers, and the 3 Australian breweries, they were 90% of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was Mountain Culture, it was, wish my memory was working right now, One Drop, who do amazing sours, and
Range.
Yeah, absolutely cleaned up the leaderboard there. So it was exciting to see, but a little bit of my Kiwi heart died a little.
Yeah.
But you know, there's New Zealand's just full of amazing breweries like Hallertau and 8 Wide was there. They were incredible ones as well. It's good to see them all from around New Zealand. One of my favourite things about New Zealand is just tiki touring around and finding these breweries in the middle of nowhere, and they're just spectacular.
Yeah.
And the people are very genuine and beautiful. It's just great.
I remember going there on the cusp of the pandemic, and just going to some of those little breweries. We only went to Christchurch, and then up to Nelson. I think Christchurch in South Island. But just touring around, there's awesome old sort of pubs.
Carpet on the floors, pool tables.
Reminded me a little bit of like going down to Tasmania or Hobart, that sort of feeling. The weather's pretty similar. And then up around Nelson was just beautiful. Obviously you got all the hot fields. It's sort of, you fly over the sort of mountains to get there.
All the little microclimates are really fascinating. You go into one valley, it's 20 something degrees, and another one's 18. It's a very unique place in the world, and it's probably why we can grow so many varietals of hops really well.
And pretty awesome produce. Like they grow some great wine grapes over there. Good fruit.
Food in general is that's probably my favourite part, is going back and just having lots of beer and food.
Yeah,
love it. It's also my favourite part of going to our breweries, is all the beer and food. So it's, probably a theme there, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. But the Kiwi hops are just so unique in their flavour profile that they put into the beer. It's like there's no real anything like it in the world as far as hops go. So they come out beautifully in this sort of beer.
How hard is it to recreate a beer once it's been so highly heralded? Is there a lot of pressure behind that, or?
Yeah, there is a bit.
Yeah.
Probably more self-imposed pressure. As I was just saying, we actually had taken wort out of that beer, so it didn't really, well, it did, but it didn't quite come out as we'd first intended. We only realised that later, so it was almost better than we intended it to be.
Oh, great.
Which is not a bad problem. So to then recreate that, particularly when you're scaling it up to 4 or 5 times the size of the beer, is pretty hard. To make this one as well, we're on sort of a timeline, because this is going into the Indies and other beer awards. And the malt that we'd used in the first batch, there wasn't any left in Australia. So that lands
should have
in
got
Melbourne.
me to get it through customs.
We haven't been very successful at that lately. So we had to wait for that to land in Melbourne, which put the brew back about 10 days from when we wanted to brew it. And then the latest season of New Zealand hops hadn't arrived in Australia when it was time to dry hop it. So they went in probably over a week later than what we'd intended as well. So it sort of pushed all the production schedule back. And then really we probably didn't have it on chill or conditioning for as long as we would have liked to allow that bit of buffer. So we actually packaged some of it last Friday, because we had to send our pallet down to Melbourne on Friday. So we're literally canning when the truck pulled up to get the to get the box of beer. So yeah, it's definitely challenging, and there is, I guess, an expectation once it does well to recreate it and for it to do well again. Not that the beer awards are the be all and end all, but when you do get those sort of accolades, it's nice to try and...
Well, it's nice to get that genuine feedback. I mean, it's all blind tested by a series of judges who take their jobs very seriously.
It is serious stuff. I've done it myself.
Couldn't imagine. It's drinking the entire day.
Well, the same thing happened with the Neo Mex last year. So that did pretty well on a couple of beer awards, and then we remade it to put it into the AIBA awards. But it was almost too fresh for those awards.
Oh, that beer aged wonderfully.
And it's now going into the Indies, I don't know, 4 or 5 months later. And I tried a can a couple of nights ago and it's tasting beautiful. So we'll see how that goes.
How would my Mango Mac that's been sitting in my fridge for a year go?
If you've kept it cold, it should be all right.
You reckon?
Yeah.
I'll bring one up.
Yeah, for sure. The sours hold up pretty well. Generally beers with hops in them will sort of degrade the quickest. And then depending how you've stored it. So if it's been in the fridge, it should be fine.
That lemonade sour mellowed really lovely. It was brilliant, that one.
I think that there might be a keg or two of that floating around. Bring it back in time for summer.
Yeah, you had some, probably diverging a bit, but you had some cracker sours come out there. Strawberry Goza, absolutely the daiquiri. Absolutely amazing. Real crackers. And coming into summer too. Have you got anything coming up that's super exciting coming in spring?
We have just slipped one in, in time for spring. So for anyone that tried our Gabs beer, the Cola Chopper Chop sour is making a comeback based on that as a different beer. So it'll be a Cola sour. So that'll be available in a couple of weeks. That's the next big one to drop.
Is that going to be package or keg?
Yeah, we're going to can it this time.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we originally did that for Gabs and just did a few kegs, and then did another little run of it and each time it seems pretty popular. So
yeah, now it's a pretty bloody popular at Gabs.
Yeah, bit of a no-brainer to bring that one back.
Yeah, that's exciting.
But yeah, as we get warmer, obviously the sours become more and more popular. They sort of die off a little bit during winter as people drink sort of bigger sort of beers, I guess, malty beers. Not that we really have winter in Queensland.
It gets down to 18 degrees or something.
Yeah,
it's pretty nippy. Put on your beanie.
Actually, this year was the first year I actually felt cold. Might be starting to acclimatise to Queensland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, I think that's about it.
All right.
There is a trophy for this floating around somewhere. We'll have to see if we can track that one down. And look what we have here, we found it. Looks like it's been stored for safekeeping. Perhaps we'll find somewhere safe for it at the brewery to put it on display. What do you reckon? No, don't trust anyone with it?
I've seen what happened to the last one. I don't even know what it's meant to be.
Oh, that one? Yeah, well, that was a practice.
Oh, like a practice kit that, was it the eggs or the potatoes that you get?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This one feels a bit more heavy duty, so I think you'd have to hit that pretty hard to break it. The other one was a bit flimsy. Yeah. Oh, well, there we go. There it is. Not a bad little way to finish off, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.